And we are back for another week of college football PB betting. This is, I guess, episode 3 already of the season. We have week 1 in the books. And if you're new to this channel, it's nothing, I guess, new for you, but we're going to change it up a little bit this year. We're going to be doing the 2 episodes a week instead of just the one, recapping and previewing. We're now just going to do about a 20 to 30 minute recap either on Sundays or Mondays, and then we'll do the week 2, I guess, preview later in the week. So I know it's a little bit later in the week just because of all the games that we had on Sunday and Monday. But Paisley, we got week 1 in the books. Before we know it, it'll probably be Thanksgiving. How are we feeling here after week 1?
Yeah, now it feels good. Okay, let's get a full card in. Long weekend from Thursday to Monday night, finishing up with Bill Belichick and that performance last night. So a lot of football. Nice to get a little breather in the middle of the week here, and then we'll be ramping it right back up next weekend. But lots of takeaways. We'll get into some of the big games and some of the big stuff we learned from this week 1.
Yeah, so we got 5 straight days, Thursday through Monday of football. We'll break down this episode. We'll just recap our picks quickly from week 1. We'll go into the recap of all the major games, some of our opinions, and then we'll just close out with our winners and losers of the week, which is always a fun segment that we've been doing last year. So I guess, Paisley, you went 8-13 on your card this past Saturday, I guess the whole weekend. Not ideal to say the least, but we're 1-1 on locks. I'm the same way, also 1-1 on locks, and had a slightly better win percentage, but a lot less games. I went 7-4. So together as a page, we're 15-17 through week 1, 2-2 on the locks. Couple close ones, I guess, at the end that could have went really either way, but I guess the locks definitely disappointing, only going 500 with some of those. Alabama, I mean, we'll get to them, but that was one of my favorites. And not only do they not cover, they, as we all know, lose the game. So some crazy results from week 1.
Yeah, not our best. Got our feet wet. My Georgia Tech lock, really like that to start the weekend. Thought that was good. You were also on them as well. Had some nice momentum Thursday, Friday. Auburn looked good too. And then, the Texas game, I was actually thinking as I was looking over my card case, I didn't put the under on the page, but I did mention in the podcast. So if you listen to the podcast, you got a little bonus pick there. We'll be a little sharper. It was week 1. We missed some stuff, but a lot of red on there. Don't want to see that. And then ended it with Notre Dame not looking great either. We will get to that later, but the under hitting. And then TCU at least giving me some momentum going into next week. But yeah, tough one, but just the middle of the stretch there, a lot of games. So we'll be back at it for week 2.
Yeah, all in all, not too bad as a page, around 500. So we'll see what happens this week. Just a reminder again, that post will be on Saturday morning. So later in the week, we'll have the next show recapping or previewing the games. And then Saturday, you'll see our full slate here on Twitter. So may as well just get right into some of the games. I guess we'll go all the way back to Thursday, which at this point feels like forever ago. But USF, South Florida, destroying Boise State 34-7. I know, basically, we both kind of like South Florida in that game. We thought they'd cover with the points. Towards the kickoff, of course, I kind of started to second guess myself and kind of liked Boise. I just thought, their offensive line, they're a physical team. They're always, one of the best group of 5 teams. I could not believe this result of a blowout. I wouldn't have been stunned, I think, if South Florida just won the game close, but 34-7. This game was really the second half. South Florida just blew them away. Boise's quarterback, that Maddox Madsen, looked terrible. I mean, this is a guy played last year. He just did not look good. He was out of rhythm. That 4th down and 5, I'm not sure if you remember, in like the third quarter, it was kind of when it was just starting to get away, but they had maybe a little bit more juice in them, and he just dropped the ball. I mean, that was something that I don't even know when the last time I saw that really in college football was. It just looked like a terrible play. They were out of sync, and I don't know if USF is legit or if it's just Boise really bad, but crazy result to kick off the week.
Yeah, this one did feel a while ago. I feel like some of these games, it wasn't just all one side or another. It could have been a little bit of both. I thought USF looked really impressive. They were definitely a little sleeper. I really liked them in this spot. But now I kind of like them full season here to maybe be a dark horse to maybe make the college football playoff, obviously, with this huge win. They do have Miami and Florida back-to-back weeks coming up. So if they could just stay healthy before they get into their conference play, that's going to be big and not get too beat up. They just have such a tough schedule this year, but I do kind of like as a very talented team. Really like their quarterback. Thought he had a really well game. But yeah, the defense looked really good for USF. Boise State just really looked like they were losing Genty a lot, really relied on him a lot last year. And you're right, the quarterback just looked puzzled. He just looked really bad all game. Offensive line was getting dominated. So definitely not a good sign from the reigning Mountain West champions and playoff contenders last year in Boise State. Definitely not the start you want to see, but I don't think their season's completely in the tank yet. They got to probably run the table if they want some playoff hopes, but definitely looks like a different team than maybe we were just accustomed to seeing last year.
Yeah, and they do have a manageable schedule. Also, to your point, the season's not over. They're still probably going to be a favorite in a lot of their games, so they could still, even get to the 9-10 win mark. Not sure, that would be enough for a playoff for them. But the biggest question coming in was, will the, missing Ashton Genty, how much will that impact them? And it looks like they didn't know what to do on offense. They really just didn't have much of an identity. And I know I saw a lot of buzz. I don't know about if you saw this, Jared, a lot of people on Twitter talking about the heat and how it impacted Boise. I think that's true, but I'm not sure if this game's in Boise, if it's going to be much different. I mean, they just look so lost. I know maybe that wasn't ideal, and they did have to travel cross country. It's never easy. Week one, it was a good environment, so I don't want to take that away from South Florida, but I'm not even sure if this would have mattered if it was somewhere else. They just looked like they got beaten almost every statistical category.
Yeah, usually if like the heat's really bothering you, maybe at the end of the game, it got a little bit away, but you could tell right from the jump, right from the first quarter here, this was USF's game. So I'd agree. And also USF was in those black uniforms, which I thought was an interesting call
Right.
with the heat too. So no, I'm with you. I think any weather conditions, stadium location, I think USF definitely won the day today or on Thursday.
All right, moving on to arguably one of the biggest games of the week, Lee Corso's final game day pick there in Columbus, Ohio State versus Texas. This was one of them that I kind of got right. We had a lot of good points about how we thought both offenses would probably struggle. That was very true. I mean, only 21 combined points. Ohio State just did enough to win. They didn't really look great by any means. I don't think either offense looked great. Now the biggest question is, are these like really legit top 2, top 3 defenses, or are we getting a little played a little bit because they're just not that great? It's kind of hard to say. My biggest takeaway from this entire game, though, is just the disappointment around Arch Manning. And I know that's a national take, but he just did not look good. He was missing a lot of throws. I don't even know what he ended up with. I think he just had the one interception, but it looks like it could have been a couple of more. And the Texas offense, I mean, I'm not sure if that Ohio State defense is that elite or if it was just an all-around disappointment for Arch. But that was my biggest takeaway in watching him play.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with all those takes. So you don't want to overreact and make huge generalizations unless you feel super confident about something. Maybe a team we'll get to next in Alabama. They might be the only one. But yeah, with Texas, I think they'll be fine. I think we did. I think we managed the game pretty well as a rocking chair under. We were on that first half. Full game, nice and easy, no sweat there. But I kind of previewed that too, Case. It was a good pick by you with Ohio State. That was definitely the right side. They definitely deserved to win. But I took Texas. It was more of a sell of Ohio State. They actually impressed me a little bit more on the defensive side of the ball. I did not think they'd be that buttoned up game one, flying around, making plays. Was impressed. Like you said, can they keep that elite defense all year, or was that just Arch Manning first start on the road nerves? And the play calling from Sark too was very conservative. A lot of runs, a lot of short passes. Really didn't let him open it up. But I was really impressed with the Texas defense, honestly, too. I mean, they really gave up that one driving touchdown. The second one was that Carnell Tate crazy catch in the end zone. That's a 50-50 ball. So to really only hold them to 14 points was really impressed with those receivers and Ryan Day and the offense there. So really took away that Texas's defense showed out like I thought. But yeah, Arch Manning, I was kind of taught, it was weird because I picked Texas, but I did not think Arch is this generational number 1 overall pick. I really thought that's why I like Garrett Nussmeier and Cade Klubnik more than him. I think they're more deserving of the number 1 pick next year. And I think it kind of showed. And I said, look back to that Georgia game last year, really just did not look like he was ready for D1 football. And then lastly, I don't know if I mentioned this before, Case, on the pod or anything, but I was thinking about in the offseason because someone else mentioned it, but he was behind Quinn Ewers at Texas last 2 years. And we know Quinn wasn't a great college quarterback. He was okay. got drafted in the 7th round. You think he would be a higher pick, and Arch Manning couldn't beat him out for 2 years.
Right.
And like or 1 year, and then now this year letting him play. And it's like, that was a big sign too. If you were like, I remember back to Caleb Williams, to Trevor Lawrence, to Kyler Murray, right when they got to their teams, they wanted to play them immediately because they were just so good in practice, seeing them every day. And when they came in, a lot of great things happened. You remember Caleb Williams' first game at Oklahoma against Texas. So I just didn't see that right from the start with Arch. The signs, off the field and everything, and just the way they called this game, I don't even know if they believe in him full term for the season. So it's going to be interesting to see. They have a couple cupcake games coming up, see if he bounces back. But he was very, very disappointing. I know it was a ton of hype, but even just from a average standpoint, he was well below average.
Yeah, 17 for 30, 170 yards, a QBR of just 58 for him. So not ideal. And then I think they'll be all right. Also, I don't want to overreact on Texas yet. It's just week one. We really don't know these teams all that much. Ohio State, though, managing to get the win, that's huge for them, just from even a confidence standpoint now through the year this season after losing, all those guys, 81st in the country and bringing back people. So they got to be pretty happy where they're at. And I'm not sure, Paisley, if you have any insight on a different take to Ohio State. I know you were lower than the average person on them this year. Do you think do you think now you'll think they'll be okay or back to the playoff, or are you kind of still uncertain about their future?
No, it definitely was impressive. Definitely got to change my outlook on them. Like you said, if that defense could play like that all year, they're going to be in really good shape. I do like saying as a quarterback, like, he wasn't getting the national hype that some of these other young guys were getting, but I think he fits what they want to do and just kind of throw the ball all around a little bit, short, quick passes. I think he's solid in that area. So I was impressed with Ohio State. I think obviously the big test is going to be Penn State early on or in the middle of the season. They do still have a couple tough games along the way. So I'm not writing them. A lot of people have number one back to national. Like, I'm not there entirely yet, but I do think they'll make the playoff now. That take is probably old and gone, but I still think they can maybe trip up twice. I think maybe not 3 times. I'd say once or twice in the season.
Yeah, and they are today, as of Tuesday, number one AP poll that just came out earlier this afternoon, jumping Penn State and Texas. So that's Big Ten SEC, and then we'll get into which probably is the shocking result. I think we even talked about this at the end, if anybody watched our previous podcast, about how disappointing it would be in Alabama if they can't win this game over Florida State. And at this point, I feel like it's over for them. I mean, that's really my take. Unless Florida State turns out to be a really elite team and competing for Clemson in the ACC, like 11-0, 12-0 type of team, and Alabama could, somehow string together 7 or 8 wins, I do not see how Kalen DeBoer and Alabama recover over this loss. I mean, I understand teams, lose crazy games. Notre Dame, of course, Northern Illinois last year, there's upsets, there's crazy things that happen, they bounce back, but it just feels differently. The on the field, just watching the film from Kalen DeBoer's press conference after the game. I mean, that was, I was going to save this take to the end, but as a Bears fan, I get PTSD seeing that press conference because I've seen Matt Eberflus answer the questions the same exact, like, just confused, like not sure if he's like knows what he's saying. It was crazy. It was something that I just could not believe was coming from any coach at Alabama. And a huge win for Florida State. All props to them. They probably are a good team, but man, 31-17 Alabama. If it wasn't already official, it seems like they have a lot of work to do before they get back to the national contender.
Yeah, no, I think you said it great there in the middle there. Like, it's how they lost. They looked terrible. They looked sluggish. They were getting tossed around by Florida State, not hustling after tackles. Like, everyone just looked lost. Like, that's not how you should be looking if you're a pristine top 5, top 10 program or want to be in that category. So the way they did it was just very alarming. Like, you look at some of these other teams that lost, like, I still have some confidence in them. Like we just talked about Texas too. Alabama, I'm ready to throw it out the window like you, Case, and they were my national championship pick. Like, I'm not afraid to do that because of how bad it looked. Now, got to give a lot of credit to Florida State. They really did turn around. They were playing with a lot of energy that you could definitely tell they were motivated. I think Gus Malzahn at the offensive coordinator too was a huge thing that nobody was really talking about. This guy was a head coach. I wasn't a huge fan of him, but now you get some of these head coaches that just focus on one side of the ball, like a Chip Kelly last year. They could really dial it up, and that could be such an advantage in college. And that whole offense just looked really different. Tommy Castellanos was running it very well. A lot of run heavy, a lot of motion, a lot of confusion they could create with that if you watched the UCF offense or the Auburn offense back in the day with Cam Newton. So they looked really sharp, really impressive. Florida State at home coming out. But so, yeah, two things could be true here, but I was really, really taken aback by Alabama's performance. It was embarrassing. Like, it was borderline embarrassing. Ty Simpson, who I thought was going to look good and sharp, did not look good. They just got out physical too, which you would never think from Alabama. Both sides of the ball. This defense, I thought, was supposed to be really good. They were getting run on. They were getting thrown on. Huge chunk play after chunk play. So just really disappointing from Alabama. And then just last note that someone I was watching or saw on social media with Ryan Williams. Where did he go? He hasn't had a 100-yard receiving game since Georgia, I think it was last year in week 3 or 4. Like, he's really fallen off the map. Jeremiah Smith's getting double covered, all this, and he's still putting up decent numbers and really good numbers. Where's Ryan Williams? Like, he is just not living up to the hype. I don't know if it's the play calling, the design, if it's him, but just everything jumbled up into one case. So this is a big, big mess for Alabama. And Kalen DeBoer is definitely feeling the pressure if you see those press conferences like you were talking about.
I mean, yeah, it was atrocious. If somebody doesn't know what I'm talking about, it was after the game, and one of the reporters asked him a question about, you said you had a great week of practice last week. What makes you like gauge that? What did you see? What did you miss? And it was a pretty, fair, I'd say, question if he said that, and he couldn't even remember what he was talking about. He's like, did I say that? And he was just like all confused. It was like, what the heck's going on here? That was cringy to watch. And yeah, it doesn't get any easier for them either. They have Georgia coming up this month. Then it's the SEC. You got South Carolina, LSU, Oklahoma. I mean, the rivalry with Auburn. This thing could really get off the rails quickly if they don't win. If they don't, 9-3, it might be fireable down there. So unless something drastically changes, I'm really not sure how Kalen DeBoer ends up overcoming this.
Yeah, you could just tell people when they feel the pressure and they just act differently. They look stunned. Like, it just looks like it's affecting the whole team now. And there was reports of people coming late to meetings, players not being well handled and stuff. So this might really blow up into a whole culture thing and a whole program wide thing. But really, red alarms are going off in Alabama.
And Paisley, last question for you on this one. Do you think Nick Saban is upset about this, or do you think in the back of his mind he's kind of happy about it now that we know that it wasn't just the program, it clearly the leader matters?
I think he's definitely a little happy. I think he's smirking a little bit at game day to be like, see, no one else could do it besides me. I think that makes him feel pretty good.
Yeah, too. Moving on, another SEC ACC matchup. This one the other way. LSU taking out Clemson on Saturday night, and also a low-scoring game. Two great quarterbacks, Cade Klubnik and Garrett Nussmeier. So that was fun to watch. LSU, Clemson. Brian Kelly finally getting a big signature win down there. Paisley, I know you're a big fan of him. Seemed to prove the haters wrong a little bit, doing what a lot of people didn't think would be done, going to enemy territory and getting the win over Clemson. Same situation with Ohio State, Ohio State, Texas. How good really are these teams? I think it's safe to say they might both be pretty elite programs, but time will tell. But what'd you see in this one?
Yeah, this was probably my most shocking besides Florida State looking that good. I'd put this number 2 at LSU and how they looked, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Again, just had to eat some crow this week and some stuff I didn't think was going to pan out. But now you learn. That's what's betting is nice about betting. You could switch week to week and see how it goes. But the defense looked really good. Got to give LSU a ton of credit. They dominated the defensive line against Clemson's O-line. Klubnik was back there, and he was just getting hit every throw. They did lose a receiver early, one of their best guys, and then it just seemed like it fell off the rails from there. They couldn't even get the run game. They weren't even attempting the run, Clemson. They just looked out of sorts, and they were the team at home. They should have been more comfortable. LSU looked really comfortable right from the jump, which is really hard to do when you're in enemy territory, like you said, in a very hostile environment at night. They had a lot of things going against them, LSU, and they played really good, almost close to flawless football. Both sides of the ball. The touchdown that got called back was ridiculous. So I think it should have been 24-10. This score is even a little more misleading than what it is. And they went for it at the end of the second quarter. It was a weird, they went for it with 10 seconds left, didn't get it. They could have got another 3 points there. So this score could have been a lot worse than what it looked like, but really disappointed in Clemson, honestly. I mean, they had all this hype. The offense was supposed to be electric, and getting shut down by this LSU defense was not something I saw coming. Klubnik looked he just did not look poised. He didn't look calm. His feet were moving all game. He was missing throws 10 feet high. That just shows he was very, kind of like Arch Manning, just a lot of nerves, a lot of stuff. And you're supposed to be a veteran quarterback at home. And Garrett Nussmeier looked like he was at home and confident, and a senior quarterback. So really impressive stuff from LSU. People are saying now national championship. And honestly, if they play like that all year round, I could see it. Like, they could definitely get there if that defense is going to be a top 10, top 15 unit, because we knew the offense was good. Their receivers were good, man. They were getting open all game. They definitely are just a wide receiver factory, and Nussmeier is really good. If the offensive line could just keep getting better for LSU and that defense could play like that, we could be talking about a top 5, top 3 teams in that case, I think, at the end of the year, which I did not see coming into the year.
Yeah, no, just after that win too, they shot up all the way to number 3 today in the AP. And it's funny, one week how much they could switch, the national talk between teams. Clemson, they almost flipped each other, Clemson and LSU, where now all of a sudden LSU is the contender, top 2, top 3 team, and now Clemson's just going to be a little bit of an afterthought. I mean, I think they'll be okay. I think, there was a tough week 1 game, credit to any program that's, having a top 10 game week 1. So don't want to, overreact by any means, but yeah, pathetic offense by Clemson. They were not able to move the ball well. LSU's defense really just shut them down. So we'll see how it works out for them in the ACC. But man, if Florida State's better, and we'll get to Miami, I guess, next, but that ACC race could get a little bit more interesting, I think, than people originally thought just a week ago.
Yeah, I think the ACC in general looked pretty good. If you look at the full card, they actually looked a lot better, showed out pretty good. So, right, I thought Clemson was head and shoulders above. But like you said, I think there's some teams right behind them. And this is what's also hard about week 1, because we wait all year and we want to judge these teams. But I look at like Texas, like Clemson, like Notre Dame. These might be their toughest games of their whole 12-game season. So it's like hard to pin it all on one game. So you don't want to crush them or take it away. So definitely keep watching them. I wouldn't write off any of these teams. They could, and with the playoff being expanded, they could all make the championship and still be in championship contention, except for Alabama. I think they're done.
I agree with that. And you do see the most change too from week 1 to week 2 in college football, from teams changing, progressing, anything, adjustments they can make. So it'll be actually really fun. And there's not near of a great slate, and we'll get to this later in the week too, for the podcast, but it'll still be fun to see even some of these teams going against lower tier, schools, just to see, how they look, what they're doing differently. So that'll be fun to watch. Paisley, unfortunately, it's time for your Fighting Irish falling short in Miami, 27-24. I'll be the first to say this. I was surprised by this result. Miami impressed me, I think, a little bit more. I was a little low on them. Clearly, they they had a good game. They were able to score 27 points for starters on Notre Dame's defense. They did, almost blow it at the end. Miami, Notre Dame had a very strong comeback there late in the third quarter and midway through the fourth, going all the way down, tying it back up after being down 21-7. So some credit there, but big win for Miami. I think, Notre Dame, you could talk about them a little bit more than me. They have a tough one against A&M next week, but then things kind of open up. We'll have some time to make some adjustments. In Miami, though, if you're a Miami fan, I'd feel pretty happy for how you guys opened up week 1. That's pretty rare for them.
Yeah, no, this one, it was shocking, but again, I think Miami was the right side. They really outplayed Notre Dame the whole game, definitely deserved to win. Cristobal tried to blow it there at the end. I think that was something that really not what people were talking about, but they went, I think it was 4 or 5 drives in a row without a couple first downs and no points in the second half there. So Notre Dame definitely adjusted well on the defensive side in the second half and offensively too, but this game was all in the first half. I mean, I just didn't understand the Notre Dame game plan coming out. I know they wanted to get CJ Carr, comfortable and involved, and he wasn't even the problem. I thought he played really well. I was really impressed with him with all the bad reports that were coming out of camp, but they were putting a lot on his shoulders there, and he was actually delivering. This could have went really sideways, except for that one interception. He had the interception off the guy's ankle that bounced up in the air, and then the one-handed OBJ catch for 7 points right before the half. So definitely some high variance, lucky, quote-unquote, plays, you could call that, definitely went Miami's way. But overall, yeah, I just did not like the Notre Dame game plan, both offensively and defensively. They weren't establishing the run. They weren't even trying to run it in the first half, which is very surprising. And when they did, the couple of times, they averaged 5.1 yards per carry in the whole game. So it just didn't make any sense for these running backs to just not get the touches. I think that'll change, hopefully, in their next game against Texas A&M. And then the defense was just super soft. They weren't really blitzing. They were kind of just playing prevent defense, letting Miami chunk it down the field and then trying to stop them in the red zone, which that was not their MO last year. They were super aggressive, very man-based, blitzing, very aggressive with Al Golden. Now he's gone with the new DC. So definitely it was a weird coaching. Like I never had to blame the coaching or really scratch my head about the coaching all of last year. And right out of the gates here, just didn't really like the game plan, fought hard in the second half, but it was just too little too late. You can't be doing that against a top 10 team on the road. Definitely showed some nice signs. Season's not over. They didn't look god awful like some of these teams in week one, but definitely a little head scratching in the first half. But I really liked how CJ Carr played. I think he looked really good. And then just on the Miami side, I think they were very impressive as well. That offensive line might be the best in the country. They were keeping Beck super clean. They were running the ball really nicely. That one receiver, number 10, I think he was Tony's younger brother or something. He had a really good game. Guys are making one-handed catches. So the Miami star players really did pop out of the transfer portal. So if they could keep playing that well, Carson Beck looked really comfortable. That's what I was trying to tell people all season. Like, he's a good quarterback who's just in a bad situation in Georgia. Now he looks more happy. He looks more into the games, has a better offense around him, and that could help him achieve what he wants to achieve. So I think Miami could be a real player. Now, it's very hard to trust Miami with Mario Cristobal and their late season blunders. They like to do this, and they like to lose games late in November. So just even go back to just last year. So I'm not ready to put them in the top 4 national championship conversation yet, but I definitely think they could contend with Clemson for an ACC championship and then see what happens from there. But I got to see a little bit more from Miami. Very impressive week one, but they did almost blow it, which would have been a horrendous loss if they would have blew it.
Right. Yeah, like you said, it could have ended much differently. We would probably both have a much different outlook on Miami if they did blow this game. If, let's just say, that field goal doesn't go in, 47 yards, go to overtime, let's say Notre Dame wins, it's a completely different situation even for them. So, yeah, I'm definitely not sold on them yet. Like you said, I'm probably going to need a few more weeks to decide on that. We know sometimes week one could be things could change week two. We may be totally wrong on these teams as the season progresses, but yeah, I was impressed by Miami though, at least for how they played. Holding Jeremiah Love too. I'm looking here for only 10 carries for just 33 yards. So I think that was a big stunner for me. I thought, like you said, Notre Dame would come out and be able to run the ball. I thought that's actually why I was giving them the edge. I really thought they were going to have trouble slowing down their offense. So that was my biggest takeaway from week one. We'll see though next week, Notre Dame A&M. So we'll get a lot more answers then. But no, overall, big win for Miami. They should be pretty happy of where they're at, and maybe they'll be able to contend with Clemson. Time will tell.
Yep. No, yeah, like you said, when they ran the ball Notre Dame, it was good, but they just ran it so little. It's just very head scratching. But again, got to give Miami a lot of credit. They did play really well and came out and played really motivated. So give the Hurricanes some credit as well.
On to Chapel Bill, Mr. Baisley. Disappointing game last night for North Carolina. I know I want to apologize to anybody. I did have UNC with 3.5 on my slate. Really should have just left that off. It would have been 7-3. Felt good though after 10 minutes when they went right down the field and scored. Thought maybe I knew something that everybody else didn't, but unfortunately, after a drive or two, North Carolina just looks like one of the worst Power 4 teams in the program in the country. Couldn't do anything. TCU just ran all over them. Did really whatever they wanted. In that game, it was like watching, TCU and whatever, any team, Arkansas Pine Bluff or something out there. But disappointing if you're North Carolina. I also don't want to overreact, though. It was like we all saw the stats. If you watched the game, North Carolina, how many times did Kirk Herbstreit say they brought in 70 new players? So they wanted to make sure everybody knew that. And it certainly showed because they looked terrible. But nonetheless, TCU also pretty impressed. I don't know. Is TCU going to be all of a sudden a player in the Big 12, or is UNC that bad? It might be a little bit of both also, but I was really impressed with TCU. I was impressed with Hoover, their quarterback. He looked great. And I really do think TCU is all of a sudden, possibly a front runner really to win the Big 12. They look really good, so we'll see. But very disappointing for Belichick here in opening game.
Yeah, finally got one right after a lot of these big games did not go the way I was envisioning. Finally got one in the Monday night slate. But yeah, TCU looked really good. I really liked them going into the year in the Big 12 and did not like UNC. But I think with UNC, they're going to get better as the year goes on. That's why I kind of liked them I like TCU in this week 1 spot. I think UNC will be a different team, especially by like week 7, 8 as we get later on to the year. Just didn't really love the quarterback play. Like we talked about Gio Lopez. They brought in Johnson at the end. Like these quarterbacks just aren't wowing. They brought him in late because they didn't have any quarterbacks. They need a lot of time to gel. Bill Belichick's very not confused, but looking into other things and not football wise in the offseason. So it's just a mess, and really started out 7-0, like you said. And I was like, oh, geez, well, I might be proven wrong here, and this might be a whole different story. And then they did not have one positive thing the rest of the game after that. That was utter domination. So, yeah, definitely got to take away TCU looked really good. But, well, I'll keep an eye on UNC. Their schedule's so easy. So just keep that in mind. I think they could still have some wins on the schedule. I just think that was more on TCU. I really like them. I think they showed as a good top 25 team.
Yeah, and that stadium cleared out in that third quarter. You don't see that often. I mean, that environment was great. It was electric opening the game, kickoff. They go down and score. And then just how things could change so quickly. Also, of course, they showed Jordan Hudson, Belichick's 24-year-old girlfriend, on the screen after they scored. Like, that's just unbelievable. Gonna have another Taylor Swift situation, I guess. Every time North Carolina gets a first down, they're probably gonna pan her now. It's crazy. What do you think, Paisley? Is he going to last long term, Belichick in North Carolina, or what do you think? A year he's gone, 2 years? Like, I have no idea what to think. I feel like he'll be gone in a year, but maybe who knows?
Yeah, I didn't see long term even. Yeah, from the start here when he came to UNC, I was thinking 2 years max. Honestly, I think he's trying to propel himself and then get back into the NFL ranks or just retire. But yeah, it was very shocking to see the UNC Stadium fully packed, and I'd never seen that. And then, like you said, cleared out very quickly. But this game would have been so good if it was at noon for UNC, not in the primetime slot when everyone was watching them on a Saturday mixed in with 60 other games. But keep your eye on UNC the rest of the year. Let's see how they do.
And then just a couple other notes, and feel free to take this however you want, Jared. From week one, kind of what I saw, that Nebraska over Cincy, that was an exciting game. Finally, Matt Rule got a game to go his way after they almost blew it at the end. I don't want to take anything away from the player, but man, with that interception, it was a good play, but that was a terrible decision to throw it deep. It looked like they were going to go right down and kick a field goal and tie the game up, but Nebraska does survive, so my pick of them making the playoff is still alive. Not sure I'm sold on them now, but that was tough to watch. They did get the win. Certainly struggled. And then I also have noted Kansas State, Indiana, also certainly underwhelming opening game. Well, Kansas State finally got a win after losing in Ireland, but they nearly got upset by North Dakota. North Dakota had the lead late in that game, so my Kansas State to win the Big 12 doesn't look strong right now. And then Indiana, I think we were both kind of right on them. They did not look good at all. They might be back to regular Indiana. They did get the win, but I actually don't even, I forget who they played, but it was I think they scored like 27 Old Dominion. That's who it was. 27-14 over Old Dominion. So disappointing for them, I would say.
Yeah, I actually took Old Dominion in my actual betting slip. They did not make the page because I wasn't super confident with them, and I was afraid of Indiana running it up late. But they were hanging on all game, and they actually played pretty close. Old Dominion, not a bad team in the Sun Belt, actually. I think they could be second or third in that conference. They're going to be pretty good. But yeah, Indiana did not look as dominant. They're definitely a way different team this year than last year. Kansas State barely squeaking by North Dakota, and they're at home. They came back home. It was a 38-35, something like that, high scoring. So really not good for Kansas State. I didn't really buy them coming into the year, and it's just really cementing that the first two games. I thought Cincy actually looked better than I thought. Honestly, got to give them credit. I thought they were going to be really terrible, but they actually played pretty decent the whole game and kept with Nebraska. And Nebraska
Home game too.
Yeah, like it looked good for the most part, but then just they were both trying to give the game away at the end, so it was just that was an ugly game at the end there. But Raul looked really good. I thought the offense looked better, just a lot of short passes, nothing crazy, but I thought he looked really comfortable and was making a lot of good throws. Just Nebraska defense, that's the only thing. They were so good last year. They lost a ton of guys. I feel like that defense could be a problem, but I was actually impressed with Raiola overall, and I think he's going to have a really solid season.
Yeah, Patrick Mahomes, Dylan Raiola, basically the same person. That was very on the broadcast. How many times? I forget who he was calling the game, but they just kept saying about Raiola, Mahomes, and then the Cincinnati home crowd. I mean, it was just like it could be a break. It was in St. Louis for first, or Kansas City, but anyway.
You're really beating a dead horse with some of these announcing things in some of these games. It was crazy.
All right, well, that's pretty much it, except for one of the best segments in the world here, the winner and the loser of the week. I guess Paisley, I'll kick it to you. I'll let you. I guess we could go losers first, and then we'll go to the winners of the week. We'll see where you take this question from week one. Paisley, who was your loser of the week?
Yeah, a lot of good choice. I think we went over a bunch of them in the bigger games, but I'm going to highlight a team I thought was actually going to have a good year. Picked them as one of my better picks of the week. Last week's pod. It's going to be Northwestern. I hate to do it to the Wildcats, but they look terrible. I think they lost 27-3 or something like that. Only scored 3 points, had 4 or 5 turnovers. Really thought they were going to be a little sneaky team to have some good value betting on at the bottom of the Big Ten, but Preston Stone did not look good. I don't know what happened. He had that really good year at SMU and then got injured a couple years in a row. And now this, like, he just looks like he's off the map. And I think he's like 26 years old. Like, he should be playing a lot better. So really thought they could be a somewhat sleeper team against the spread wise, but they really struggled, did not look good. So that Northwestern take, just a team we didn't really highlight in the recap here. Really disappointed with them in the Northwestern Wildcats.
Maybe Tulane is a group of 5 playoff contender, Paisley.
That's also true. They could be. They could be.
They actually could be. My loser, I'm going to have to just stay here with the chalk pick, Kalen DeBoer, Alabama. They're just unbelievable. I mean, if you're an Alabama fan, I would be disgusted. You take one of the best rosters in the country and just show out to Florida State and lose by 14 points to a team that went 2-10 last year, unless something drastically changes. It really, I may not have been so harsh on him, but that press conference just set me off. I think if I was a fan and then heard him go up there and just talk in circles for 10 minutes, not answer questions, very confused look. I mean, no confidence. I would have lost my mind. So easy pick for me this week. Hopefully he's done, and I don't have to mention him again for the rest of the season. I have a feeling that won't be the case, but loser of the week, definitely. This one's a no-brainer for me. It's Kalen DeBoer.
Yeah, no, that's a good one, Case. And these buyouts now with these coaches that don't start off good, but get these big contracts, like, I don't know what they're going to do. They have to buy them out. It's a really tough. So he might have to just stick around just because the next year or 2 or 3 in Alabama with the money.
They have the boosters, though. They have the money. If they want to get him out of there, if the fan base wants him out, he'll be out. But that's a good point, though.
Yeah, just something in mind. But my winner of the week, too, Case, is going to go a little positive here to end the pod. I'm going to shout out the Tarleton State. I don't even know what their nickname is, the mascots, but down there in Texas, big win against Army on Friday night, I think it was. They were plus 14 against the spread, went to overtime, won the game on a missed field goal from Army late there. So got to give a big shout out. Really good FCS team. They really couldn't win the whole thing in the FCS. So if you're looking for some dumpster diving material, Tarleton State had a tough travel going back. They were in Portland the week before, went to Army in New York there, and we got the win outright. So that was very impressive. Huge program win, and hated to do it to the troops, but I was down on Army going into the year, and it's really looking like it's going to be a tough season with that first game of the year.
You were right on point there, Mr. Paisley, with Army. They did not look good, but all credit to Tarleton State. By the way, they are the Texans, Tarleton State Texans. Pretty cool name. Also, yeah, like that pick. Good shout out to them. My winner of the week is going to be everyone that hates Alabama. Clear pick. They have to be celebrating. SEC fans, I mean, Georgia fans, Florida fans, Mississippi State fans, everyone that really just hates Alabama has to have a really good feeling, because I know after Saban, they took a victory lap and they were like, all right, he's gone, this and that, but you really didn't know. They're a good program. They have all these 5 stars. You really weren't sure if they were truly gone. Well, it's safe to say they are. Everyone that hates Alabama, huge win to them. I could kind of throw myself in that bucket. Not really. I don't have a huge passion against them, but I'm happy to see at least those fan bases really take the victory lap on Alabama being gone forever.
Yeah, they had to wait a while, too. It was a nice, 10, 15-year dynasty. So got to give them their flowers, give them their time. They should be celebrating.
All right. Well, I think we're all set here. Under 40 minutes. Once again, this is just the recap from week 1. Later in the week, we will have our week 2 preview. It'll probably be around the same length, maybe a little bit longer. So tune in for that either Wednesday or Thursday. And yeah, so long until later in the week.